Happy Shanty-a-Day number 242. I'm Sky.
I'm Sagan.
And we're siblings.
And we sing sea shanties and sea shanty adjacent music.
And it's Friday.
It is Friday.
You made it to Friday.
Yeah, made it to Friday.
Good for you. Good job. Us too. Yeah. Yeah, we have kind of an interesting one here, I guess.
We do. So this is
here.
It's a folk song. Not a super old one. But it is. So it's called Rufford Park Poachers. And we heard this on. You know how big of Longest John stands we are. We heard this on their stream, and
they had a stream this
week. They did.
Yep.
One was taken by just musically the uniqueness of it. But there was something that you recognized about it.
Yeah,
which,
in my brain, I was like, dude, this sounds familiar for some reason. And I just figured it was, it's just an old English folk song. Like, you hear one, you've heard a lot of them.
Although this one doesn't sound like
although this one doesn't. But there was something definitely familiar about it.
Uh-huh.
So, but as we were doing the
backstory
getting into
the backstory here.
And those of you that are super band nerds right now have probably already figured out what the connection is.
So Rufford Park is not far from Mansfield, and in 1850 there was a showdown between the locals, the local hunters, and gamekeepers who worked for the local nobility, in the shape of a sort of this escalating conflict between the two sides, where the locals, the poachers, would sneak onto the game preserve, and the gamekeepers would be like, no, and they just got increasingly violent.
Not poachers in the way that we think of them today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we think about
illegal,
hunting. Like, the last elephant is out there somewhere.
Right,
Let's go find it and sell it for ivory.
Not those guys.
No. When we grew up, always thinking of the bad guys from the Rescuers Down Under. Like
right. That kind
poachers.
Of poacher.
Yeah.
But no, it's almost more like, it reminds me of like Robin Hood. Like they talk about, Robin Hood and his men stealing money, but there also, if you go back to the story, there was some poaching that was going on too, where they were hunting in the sheriff's woods that he didn't like either, and their claim was,
it's the woods.
It's the woods. Like, it doesn't belong to
anyone.
You, and anybody that has the means should be able to have access to it. And so these poachers, in this case, had a similar thought about this particular piece of land as well. So
after a particularly violent altercation that actually saw one of the gamekeepers mortally wounded and died a couple of days later, the ringleaders of the locals, the poachers, were rounded up, tried, and transported for 14 years of penal servitude.
Did we go somewhere fun like Australia?
Probably not.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, and penal servitude in 1800s?
No, I meant
Van Diemen's
fun
Land.
in quotations here. I was just wondering if they ended up in Australia, theoretically.
Could have been. Patrick O'Shaughnessy of the Lincolnshire Society did a reconstruction of the events and words, 3 verses of which were recorded by Percy Grainger.
So those of you that are band nerds will know the name Percy Grainger. Very, very famous wind band composer. I wrote for other things as well, but is probably most well known for his wind band works. And one of the other things that he did that luckily helped to preserve a lot of English folk music at the time was he would go out and collect folk music from people in these little tiny villages. And sometimes he was taking notes and writing them out. And sometimes he was actually recording them singing. So just some really neat stuff that was preserved because Grainger wanted to go out and find these other things. But he wrote this, one of the pieces that he's most famous for is called Lincolnshire Posy. And one of the movements in there is
the third movement.
Rutherford. Rufford Park Poachers. And so that's when my brain went off and went, oh, I've played this before. And there it is. If you go and listen to that recording, we'll link the Granger recording as well. Really interesting there. But yeah, if you've played this before, you're going to recognize the tune.
Yep. It was recorded by Percy Granger from Joseph Taylor in 1908. And Taylor was a retired gamekeeper who was a teenager at the time of the events in the song. So there's a chorus that everybody sings along with. Yeah, we'll sing it for you here. Give me that D sharp. So poacher bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. So
if you can imagine that, wind band people layered on top of each other.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, well, he wrote it to be sort of, to be cinematic that way, that in his own way. It's not, not totally normally cinematic. Granger was not totally normal. But it's meant to sort of tell the story of the two factions, sort of creeping through the woods, and then there's some battle and all these kinds of things. But yeah, you can, if you know the tune.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, the folk song is much more straight ahead than the wind band piece. Yeah. So one more time, of course. So poacher bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. I have absolutely no idea what time signature this is in. It switches
songs.
And changes things around.
There's no rules. There's no rules.
It probably could be transcribed by someone, but they would have to have more degrees. And would
my
also
recollection
have to have
of
passed
Granger
a
is that it changes time signatures quite a bit.
Cool.
The way that he wrote it out.
Yeah, that tracks.
But folk music doesn't have
folk
time signatures.
Folk music does what it wants to.
It does what it wants to.
Does what it wants to.
But this one's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely an interesting story. And these, like Robin Hood, these poachers sort of end up as, these folk heroes.
Yeah, they became like folk heroes.
Sticking it to the man and all of that. So, ready?
Yeah. You ready?
Are you ready? Yeah, let's do it.
A buck or doe, believe it so, a pheasant or a hare, were set on earth for everyone quite equally to share. So poacher bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. They say that 40 gallant poachers, they were in distress. They'd often been attacked when their number it was less. So poacher bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. Among the gorse to settle scores, these 40 gathered stones to make a fight for Palmer's rights and break the keeper's bones. So poacher bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. The keepers went with flails against the poachers and their cause, so no man there again would dare defy the rich man's laws. So poacher bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. Upon the ground with mortal wound head keeper Roberts lay. He never will rise up until the final judgment day of all that band that made their stand to set a net or snare. The foremen brought before the court were tried for murder there. So poacher bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. The judge he said, for Robert's death transported you must be, to serve a term of 14 years in convict slavery. So poachers bold as iron fold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. buck or don't believe it so, a pheasant or a hare were set on earth for everyone quite equally to share. So poacher bold, your tale is told, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. There you go!
Yeah, cool. Neat old folk song.
Yeah.
And thanks, Percy.
Yeah, thanks, Percy
for
Granger.
going to record it and stuff so that it survived. Yeah, pretty cool. I don't know.
That's all I got. It's Friday the 13th, so
Nice.
be careful out there.
Yeah, be careful out there.
If you made it this far, you're probably, well, I don't know.
It's just getting dark. So
no, it is just getting dark. Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yep. Oh no.
Stay away from broken mirrors, black cats, ladders, and lakes.
Yeah. Be safe. We love you. And hopefully
we'll see
you again tomorrow.
Bye.